Okay. Okay, what am I getting wrong about the Trump and Ukraine story? I thought I knew the rules. If you invade another country, you're the baddies. That's what all the films told me. That's what the punchline from that Faulty Towers Germans episode tells us. And yet Trump seems to be teaming up with Putin, and people are defending him. And that's what's been in the news. Whew. So the BBC website said, Trump calls Zelensky a dictator as rift between two leaders deepens. And that seems to be an insult. But even that we can't be sure about. I mean, Trump famously joked that he'd be a dictator on day one when he became president again, and he didn't. He waited till he'd unpacked. And he's taking sides with Putin, who is hardly the most undictatorish leader out there. The 2024 election saw Putin get a staggering 88% of the vote, and the remaining 12% are now dead. And in Trump season 1, he went off and became buddies with Kim Jong-un. So it's unclear as to whether Trump means dictator in a bad way. But Trump also said on social media that Zelensky was a moderately successful comedian. And that is an insult that will, well, it won't touch the sides, will it? As a comedian, the number of times you get people who think it'll be such a roast online to say you're a so-called comedian, or they put the word comedian in quote marks. Oh, if you think that's going to upset us, you have not seen the stag doos we have to face in Bournemouth. But there's a bit where he says Zelensky might not have a country left. That seems a bit hostile. And doesn't it seem a bit odd that you've got peace talks with only one side of the war there, and the other people seem to hate the other side of the war? Is that peace talks, or is that ganging up? And I know from personal experience, every time I go on and talk about this on TV, people are angry that I'm not a Putin fan. So let's look at some of the points to see if we can better understand them. Zelensky is a dictator because he's not holding elections. Okay. That could be good, especially if other countries keep popping out elections during wartime. But as former backbencher Boris Johnson points out, the UK didn't have one from 1935 to 1945. Are you calling Churchill a dictator now? I mean, someone will be somewhere. It's the internet. Have you seen it? It's a nightmare. Even Zelensky's rivals don't want an election right now. So let's move on to the next comment I often get. The US overthrew a fairly elected Ukrainian leader during the Euromaidan revolution of 2014. But here's the thing with that argument. Even if it's true, the end of the paragraph isn't, and therefore Russia is allowed to invade. If you think an election is dodgy, you don't get to go in and take some land. Heck, Trump still claims that the 2020 US election was rigged. So could we have a slice of Florida for no reason? I mean, it's the only place Brits go on holiday. It'd be cheaper to annex it than keep renting. Zelensky is making money out of this, is a comment I often see. You can find sources online that argue that he's in it for the money, or some sources saying that he's not, and that's all opinion. Until we see the self-assessment form at the end of the war, I guess we don't know. But even if the claim is true, I revert to the point. Does that mean that Putin gets to take land? If a leader is on the fiddle, does a sovereign country's border still get a bit porous? Like each year, they do a survey of the most corrupt leaders.
2 African leaders have made it to the top 3 on the list of the most corrupt leaders of 2024.
So could we go in and take some land in Africa? We're the UK. Stop giving us ideas. We're trying to be good. NATO was expanding. Ergo, Putin gets to get some free bits of Ukraine. I'm always going to go back to the same thing. There's nothing you can say that leads to, oh, well, they should definitely get invaded then. And feel free to explain more on these points in the comments, because I don't quite get why anything would make it okay for a nation to invade another nation. Twice as well. I mean, Trump's now claiming that Ukraine started it. And it feels like we could all remember it. It's not that long ago. It's more recent than the pandemic. It's more recent than Tiger King, and I remember most of that. And it's not one of those facts you get on QI that hardly anyone even remembers, unless he's hoping that we do some sort of Mandela effect. Do you know what that is, right? That's where you think you remember something, but it turns out you're not remembering it quite correctly. For example, you know the Looney Tunes logo, you think it's spelt like that, yeah? In actual fact, it was spelt like that. Wow. Whew, you live and learn. And I know some people will start to defend Putin now simply because they're such Trump fans, and that's fair enough. It's like the opposite of Trump derangement syndrome. So I suppose Trump arrangement syndrome. The English language is not as precise as I need it to be. But some people will defend whatever he does. Like the Kefefi tweet. Instead of saying, oh, it's a typo or he must have dropped his phone, some Trump fans said it was a secret message that only the people who knew what it meant understood. Not that secret, he flipping tweeted it. And can I just say on that, no one's 100% wrong all the time. No one's 100% right. You might hate Trump, but by God, he's got a point about the paper straws. Just because Trump said it, you don't have to pretend you now enjoy the taste of papier-mâché in your drinks. And even if you like Trump, no one's 100% right all the time. Even Jesus made mistakes. When he turned water into wine, he used the water that people had been cleaning their feet in. Someone at the party must have been like, yeah, that's impressive, but next time Just use the fresh water because now we've got like foot wine, and you could have used the. I'm driving, so it doesn't affect me. But look, I'm sorry. If you've got any more points to add to this video, please feel free. And I also realised I started this video talking about war and ended up talking about religion. I've done the whole thing the wrong way around.